Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Bobble Pod. This is episode 5, where we're going to be talking about the future outlook on agencies. But before I begin, don't forget to follow, like, subscribe our podcast platforms. If you're watching us on YouTube, don't forget to click on the little bell notification so you know every time our episodes come out. They come out every Tuesday, and there will be, as part of season 3, where we're doing at least 20 episodes. Today, I am very excited to welcome our first guest on season 3, Gareth Healey. How are you doing?
Very good, Manny. Thank you very much. Yeah, great.
Thank you for joining us. Gareth will be joining us for the next 2 episodes. We'll give more information about that at the end. But I've got quite a few questions for Gareth because, as I said, the topic is future outlook on agencies. And as an agency owner, and I know, Gareth, you've run some very reputable agencies in the past, it'd be good to get your viewpoint. But before I do that, do you, just for our listeners and our viewers, want to introduce yourself?
Of course, yeah. No, it's great to be here, Manny. We've known each other for quite a while now, but for those that don't know me, I'm an ex-agency owner. I've worked in the agency sector for 25 years now. I ran a business in Leeds for 15 years, an agency in Leeds, but I exited that business about 5 years ago. So I'm an agency, worked in agencies in client services, owned an agency, and now I'm an agency consultant, agency growth coach. And I'm working with, on my own, but working with lots of agency clients, helping them grow, helping them develop their businesses.
And I can just say that because our relationship goes back to, we met at our Leeds Digital Festival, wasn't it? Yeah. I can't believe I can remember that far back. Leeds Digital Festival. I remember going for the breakfast.
You did? Yeah.
And that was about, again, us learning, because at that point we had, Bobble had 2 directors, and we needed some advice. And I remember when I put a lot more investment into Bobble Digital, we brought you on as a consultant, which actually the learnings we took from that is why Bobble is still successful to this day. We didn't have the money other agencies people had to invest into. It was a bit of early inheritance from me, which I was very lucky to get, but I invested it wisely, and through thick or thin, we're still here. But honestly, if there are other agency, owners, or even people looking to build their agency a small size like we was, please reach out to Gareth. His advice was more than helpful. And even some of the financial structures, I still use those documents now today to help me break out and give me visibility of where we are and where we're going. Actually, it was the idea of agile that we'd actually developed with Gareth. So if you go on our website, we class ourselves as an agile digital marketing agency. And that came through, doing all those sessions, breakouts, thinking about what do we do, our processes, the peer system, our approach and methodology to allow us to stand out actually came from the work that we did with you. So if I've never said it before, I'll say it now on our podcast and on our YouTube, so it's there forever, is thank you for the work and support you gave to Bobble at that time.
That's very kind of you to say that, though, and I remember all those things, but also your own hard work, your investment, which took some guts, not just the money, it took the guts to do it, and look where you are now. Yeah,
fantastic. So, Gareth, I want to ask you a few questions about the world of agencies and get your viewpoint as well as share my own. The first one, obviously, is like you said, you ran an agency for 15 years, you've been in the industry for over 25 years, you're now consulting agencies. How has the agency landscape changed over the last 10 years?
Okay, good question. I wish I knew what was coming in these questions. They're going to come thick and fast, aren't they?
But they won't come too thick and fast, but I want it to be a bit more, off the block and actually get your actual response there.
Testing. Response there and then. 10 years. Where was I in 10 years? I was running my agency in 2012. What's changed? I think I'd say a lot's changed, and also nothing's changed. So business models are still very similar, but I think the big thing that's changed, it's proliferation, really. It's more, of course, just like the life and the world in general for agencies, there's more channels, isn't there? There's more choice of agencies. There's more complexity. There's more competition. I think in some ways there's more complacency just to add another C, which is just off the cuff, because part of what I sort of talk about in my consultancy is not accepting that this is an industry which just generates money. We've got to work very hard at it. So lots and lots, but more, just like life in general, more is thrown at us, and trying to navigate through all that stuff is becoming harder, frankly. Than it was never easy. It was never easy at the start of my agency career. It's not an easy industry. There isn't an easy industry. It's not an easy business to run. All businesses have the challenges and are difficult, but it's become harder and harder to navigate through that for agencies, certainly.
Do you think it's become a bit saturated, the market, in terms of the amount of agencies
Definitely,
there are?
yeah. I think that in some ways, I feel for clients, prospective clients, whoever they might be, choosing an agency is incredibly difficult, because who do you choose? Do you choose on location, reputation? Do you choose on the specific services they offer, or a general service? If you don't know exactly what you want, trying to talk to people about what you want, but them using language, particularly in digital, that frankly you might not understand as a client, and if you're a smaller business, or you might not understand the terminology. So again, choosing an agency very, very difficult. But there are so many agencies out there, and the reason is it's an easy business to set up. There are negatives of or challenges with running agencies and running an agency business, but there are many positives as well. And one of them is you can set it up almost overnight. It doesn't need any capital investment hardly. You need a laptop, you need a phone, you need an internet connection, and you're away. So that means for in terms of competition, there's always a lot of competition out there, new entrants to the market. Even if you've been in the business for many years, you're facing people coming in, new entrants overnight with different skills, and some are good, some are not so good, but nevertheless the market is grown, saturated.
I always find like the more experienced, the high quality staff in bigger agencies are the ones that end up going away and setting up their own little team, because they feel like the value they offer is more, and they could get more out of it themselves. Which is, I'm not saying what I did. My circumstances were different. I've already explained that in previous podcasts in terms of what led me to work for myself. I always said it was too soon. I was probably less inexperienced. I could do the job, don't get me wrong, and where do leads come from? When you're working for brand, agencies like Intermarketing, it was like, here's a brief, here's a date booking for the next pitch, here's another date booking for the next pitch. Manni, you need to go win this one. Manni, here's your targets. All I had to do was deliver on the work that I knew and manage the team and grow the team and hire the right people, which is a key aspect of running agencies. The other part was like building a reputation, standing out. When you set up your own agencies, you realize how many there are. And just in Leeds alone, there's like over 500 agencies, and not all doing the same thing, but classed as marketing agencies, from PR, creative, to media, to websites, to individual media specialisms, so SEO, PPC focus, etc. And you're competing with them.
If you're an agency, standing out in that saturated market is difficult, but also, again, as I said, as a client, finding the needle in the haystack, if you like, as to who you want to work with, who's the best to set up to work with you is incredibly difficult. But 10 years, I mean, lots, but I think the biggest thing for me is there's lots of, more choice, more channels. And it means, but people have access to more information, of course, now than they did 10 years early. When I bought my business, 2002, so we were sort of at the start of the digital revolution then. So that 10 years, it was about getting to grips with it as best we could. And different digital technologies come along, but since then, of course, but it was getting to grips with digital. But then, 2012 and the last 10 years, I think it's been working with it, but also people have got a lot more access to information. So clients can do stuff for themselves if they want, much easier than they could when maybe not 10 years, but when I started out in agencies. Agencies had a power when I started out because clients, more of a power, because clients couldn't do what they could. They couldn't do basic things like artwork. I'm not talking about digital here. Obviously, that 25 years ago, artwork for an ad was difficult for clients because it was specialist. It was an absolute specialist skill, and it still is for the art workers out there. Don't get me wrong, but equally, you can go on Canva now, can't you? Even, you and I can spend $10 a month or whatever it might be. You've got Canva and the like, not an ad for Canva, but other apps are available. But anybody can go there and access templates and use and put together artwork and do their own ads, posters, digital ads, websites, with Wix, etc., very easily now. So, I mean, I know that's for the bottom end. That's not for the bigger clients. They've still got that ability, but don't want to. But if you have the will, have the need, you can access that now. Whereas in my, the start of my career, you couldn't. It was you didn't have the black book of art workers, photographers, designers. That the agencies had that. So, that power has shifted definitely through technology. The technology is a boost and a massive benefit, and what we base our businesses on.
Yeah.
It's also, it's facilitated ease of access for other people as well who don't work in agencies.
I agree with that. I think from my time working at other agencies, it was probably just at the forefront of what was being done on display, Facebook and stuff like that. You're right, Canva, if, clients can just, probably get like an intern in, give them Canva, train them up for a couple of weeks, and then you've got someone that can do your in-house social posting using those platforms. You've got free video platforms. The amount of tech and applications and platforms out there that probably, like you said, give more power to clients, which they should, but then there's still that need for understanding how all these different parts of the jigsaw fit together and creating that strategy, which I think brings me on to the next question, which is the biggest challenges you think that marketing agencies are facing right now in the current age. We talked just then about, that actually the, small clients and companies can go out and do it themselves. One thing I'm going to touch on is the potential recession. We're recording this at the end of June, and it'll come out throughout July. But what the hot topic right now is the cost of living crisis, inflation, interest rates. What impact is that going to have on the housing market and recession? So, what challenges do you think are facing agencies like me or any other bigger ones out there right now?
Yeah, I've got another great question, and I think we know the answer. It used to be when anybody asked me about biggest challenges for agencies, and I say used to be, this is only, when I started my consultancy business pre-pandemic, new business was always gaining. New business was always the number one agency challenge. Not that they necessarily were bad at it, but more new business, better. How do we gain, how do we recruit people to develop business for us? New business was and attracting new clients was always the thing. But of course, I think now it's been relegated, which I never thought this would happen. So not only number two, I think it's probably still number two, but recruitment, of course, is number one. Recruiting people and retaining people to some degree, so you don't need to recruit, is the number one challenge, but that we're all facing. I don't think it's just in agencies, it's recruiting in other industries as well, but agencies absolutely. And what's the reason for that? There are many pandemics and economy and people, but choice. That having more choice for people, people can work far easier on their own now as freelancers. People can work across geographies far easier. The client businesses that used to rely very heavily on agencies have now often have, not always, but the bigger businesses have digital teams, studios, creative teams, whatever it might be. So they attract people in. And so that's become a real fight for I used to say the best talent, but in the market at the moment, it's a fight for people that are, that are in general. You rarely get to pick and choose these days.
I'm laughing because I'm like, yes, yes in my head.
So it is. And I think that's also, it's the challenge for us all, but it's also at the moment particular, again, in June 22, we're facing this sort of inflationary, not just finding the people, but people finding the people at the right price as well, because people are demanding, requesting higher and higher salaries as well as everything else, aren't they? Which, will that last? Will that continue? It can't forever, I don't think, but it's going to be a challenge for a while, yeah.
I did a post on LinkedIn. I don't know if you might have seen it. I was like, I don't do counter offers. I got quite a bit of response on that.
Yeah.
We had this issue, and just to come on that point is, we recruited someone as a senior paid media manager in February. Great candidate. Was based in north of Birmingham. The job was very specific. It would require him being relocated, but offer flexible working. When he came in, we agreed the working patterns. Out of the blue, about 2-3 weeks before the end of the probation period, which he was going to pass with flying colours and no concern anything, ended up finding a role which allowed him to work just from home. And again, very difficult because you pay recruitment fees, you spend time and investment into IT, equipment, resources, HR, legalities and all that to get someone in. And then it set us back to someone. So we went back and recruited again. This time was given more experienced candidates above what probably was our budget, but I was happy to invest more in. Brought on a head of paid media, verbally accepted the job. I did a post about that prior to the counter offer one, and talked about how actually, despite having a call and him agreeing to leave and taking a week to come back on the contract, which point, because he had verbally said yes, and we had a follow-up call and we're expecting to sign a contract, we had provisionally let the other candidates know that we are moving forward with another candidate, to come back and say, no, he's actually, not leaving and going to stay. So it becomes a bit of a warfare right now, not like a physical, literal warfare, but it's like you're having to compete. And that's why I did that post saying, I don't do counter offers. And I had someone come back to me saying, he was with me and to the point where saying, you decide how much you want to earn, thinking that I was going to try and get with low. That role in particular, I get the posts that people do out all the time saying, you should have the, salary in the description. Every salary we have on our website, for every job description, the salary's there. But I invite people to ask what they feel they deserve if they feel they should be earning more. In this case, this candidate was significantly more. And that was what was discussed and agreed that would get him to leave his current firm to the other one, because clearly they weren't offering that. Clearly they hadn't seen that value in that person. And we were, and quote his words, offering the professional dream. So mine was like, I don't do counter offers because I'm not going to get in a bidding war for you. If you've made that conscious decision that you need a new challenge, you're not getting the value you're getting from your current firm, which is why you've gone out and, gone through a 1 month intense recruitment process for another agency. I'm not going to counter. I was like, no, that was my offer because that's what you wanted. Yeah. That's what you and me agreed with, that you said you were happy to do it above what I said I'm happy to offer that. I went a little higher than what he was asking for just to secure the placement, which he valued. But clearly, obviously, it's easier to retain staff, but I always think, how happy is that person going to be in the long run? But
so recruitment, massive. Yeah. I asked her, I was at the Stodge Podge gathering of agency owners last week in Manchester, 200 agency people. There was one of the recruiters over in Manchester there. So I was at the bar chatting with him, and we were talking about this, recruitment is the biggest thing. He was obviously very positive about that whole being a recruitment company. But I asked him, well, what's the role that he finds most difficult to, or what's the key, most in-demand role? And just to sort of loop it back, the most in-demand role is, surprise, surprise, new business people.
Yeah.
So there's a virtuous. So new business has been relegated to number 2, but new business people are still the most sought after.
Yeah.
Or good new business people, the most sought after role. So they're connected. But
on that element, we did well. Now when we got the choice we wanted, and we've now got James McCann, who obviously is a fantastic candidate, head new business. Actually came from a bigger agency. We were able to offer him more, well, more as a package in terms of where the company's going and how he could be involved in that growth than anything else. But yeah, I agree. I think I'm actually with you. I think recruitment's the biggest challenge I myself is facing as a CEO of an agency. New business, not. I feel like we're trying to get our leads through. I think we're working through just over 100 active leads right now. Yeah. And in the 5 years I've been running the agency, I could never dreamed of looking at that. We're experimenting, but we're investing heavily into new business in terms of like lead generation, events, exhibitions. What works is creating content. We don't sell, we educate. We're, doing podcasts, we're doing bite-sized events, we're doing the latest blogs that people come to our website. So for the first time in a very long time post-pandemic, our website generally just generates leads for us without having to work. And then we invest into like lead forensics and stuff like that so we can profile. But it leads me to another question, which is you touched on this, and this is the last question I want to quickly ask is, there's so much choice there for clients. So what should businesses consider when working with agencies in the short and long term? So if you're a client and you're picking out an agency, you've got all this choice, as you've said, so many different elements, so many channels to choose from in terms of what you should be doing. What should be your thought process?
Yeah, that's a good one. I think if I was talking to clients now, if I had the opportunity to advise and maybe preach a little bit to clients, I'd be saying to them that what should they think about short and long term? I would think long term. Actually, just to pick it right out of the question, because I'd try. That doesn't make the choice of choosing the agency any easier. But so many clients, I think, at the moment are just because of the proliferation of agencies, because of what we were talking about earlier, in terms of there's so much choice and so much the ability to sort of access agencies and support out there. So many people are just thinking short term, and let's get somebody in, see whether they're any good, and then if they're not, we'll get rid of him and get somebody else. And I understand that. I can't fight against that sort of thinking or change the minds completely, because that's a sort of human nature to some degree. But I think that's a shame, because I think there's a shame both for the client and for the agency. Because if I was talking to clients now, I'd be saying, think longer term, find somebody, spend the time, get the right process in place to get the right agency, but invest in them as much as you've invested in the time looking for them, because the relationship doesn't always go well from day one. Sometimes it does, but sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes both parties need time to understand each other. Sometimes you're doing the wrong things. They might think they need X, and you might think they need Y, and that takes time to sort of come together and agree and on the right strategy, the right channels, the right tactics, whatever we're doing. And I think this sort of hire and fire mentality for clients and agencies is not new. It's not been around. It's not suddenly appeared. It's been around for a long time. But I think that's getting worse. And I don't think it's doing anybody any favors. I'm not saying you should, as a client, sign 5-year contracts with agencies, unless you really want to, of course, and you've got the right agency. But I'm not, you need the ability to flex and change who you're working with, but don't go into it for a couple of months and see how it goes. Find somebody, stick with them, invest in them. I'm a bigger football fan I am. Like football managers, agencies sometimes need a bit of time to bed in and to get it right, and before they win the league. So
I know, because sometimes success can be instant. I mean, we worked with a client where, they had an issue with, we're working with Mayfair Granite, I can answer that. We're working with them. It's 40% reduction in cost per acquisition in the first month alone. That doesn't happen all the time. I even said this to the client, that's good. That's above what we expected. You are £110 CPA. Our short-term goal is to get you back under 100. So only reduce that by 10%, really. So the fact that we've done it above more is actually, I always say, bonus and brilliant. And that's just by doing the fundamentals right. And I can understand it from the other agency's point of view. They probably just got overloaded, maybe not given that time, not understanding the market as well. But that's one example. Whereas right now, anytime a client comes up to me and says, oh, we were working with an agency for a couple of months, my mind is like a bit wary.
Yes.
And my approach changes completely. And I say, well, I want minimum 6 months. And it's like, here's the strategy, but give me 6 months to prove it and work with you to understand your business, how it works, and take it from there. And
if you're good and you know what you're doing, which clearly you guys at Bobble do, you can those relationships, those results can come pretty fast, can't they? In most cases. But as you say, and you've just given a great example there. But with agencies, the people that are coming to you saying, oh, we've just got rid of an agency after 2 months. Again, that can be through bad choices, bad chemistry, lots of reasons. But both parties, clients and agencies, giving each other some time. And that's not years, but it might be at least 6 months, maybe 12 months.
I think 6 months is a good point of call. That kind of wraps up this episode. So thank you, Gareth. I know you join us for the next episode. Anyway, thank you for everyone watching on YouTube, listening on Spotify and all the major streaming podcast platforms out there. Don't forget to follow, subscribe the main podcast streaming platforms, and click the like button on YouTube, and give us your thoughts. Did you like that episode? If you're an agency owner, what are the challenges you're facing? Drop us a message. I'll add it into my roundup and my episodes in a couple of weeks' times. But also, if you're a business and you're struggling to find an agency, what are the challenges you're facing? Let us know. We'd be happy to discuss in the chat and in the conversation. But thank you everyone for listening, and thank you, Gareth, for joining me today.
Thanks, Manny.